Hi folks, Lou here. One of the fundamental differences in games, in my view, is the difference between people who say games are all math and people who say games are about people. And a third point of view about this is that games are about stories, although I'd put that in the people or as a subordinate of the people rather than of the math. So whether it's games are about people or games are about stories, Um, there are lots of ways to pull this off. For example, it's not necessary that games are about people be games about negotiation. I'll take Britannia as an example. Someone pointed out in a comment on one of my videos that Britannia is not a good negotiation game, and it's not. It's not supposed to be. In fact, when I revised it for the 2006 edition, some people asked me to ban negotiation entirely, but that's not possible, because negotiation can be as simple as looks and pointing at the board at certain places and moaning and groaning about this, that, or the other thing, and talking about how you're so weak. There are all kinds of things you can do that are not overt negotiations, but amount to negotiations. So you can't ban it in a game with more than two players. And I did not ban it in the Britannia, but I said you could not negotiate away from the board. And that was the best I could do. Now, Britannia is very much a people game because if the system can be a little complex to pick up, but once you have, what matters is who the people are who are playing the game and what they tend to do and how they tend to react. The Britannia final at WBC recently was an example, extreme example of this. One player, the player of yellow, attacked the Caledonians of the green, and the player of the green felt that this was something that just shouldn't be done, and consequently declared that he would only attack yellow for the remainder of the game. Now, if you know those two guys, and I'm not going to name names here, you're not surprised that the green did what he did, and you're not surprised that the yellow, when threatened with this, decided he was going to go ahead and do it because he wasn't going to buckle under to the threat. The result was that the blue player, who was less experienced, much less experienced, was playing his game, which would have worked in normal circumstances, but did not work well in these circumstances, because in these circumstances, with green not attacking red, somebody else, in other words, blue, had to keep red down, and he didn't do that. So red expanded vastly. They had the maximum 20 Saxons, and they won the game running away. In fact, the game was over in like 2.5 to 2 3/4 hours. I came down late to where the game was, expecting to see the rest of it, the remainder, and they'd already packed it up. But that's a matter of people. In another game, um, two very good players, people that won the game in the tournament in the past, were playing, and because of the situation, there was a third player in there who reacted very poorly to certain things, and that decided one player not to do what he needed to do, and so the other experienced player won the game running away. And the first of the experienced players said, in effect, the game was over when we started, or before we started. That's what I mean by a people game. If you're playing a game that is all math, then that's not going to happen. But of course, games that are all math tend to be one-player games, that is puzzles usually, or two-player games. Whereas games that are about people are frequently multiplayer games, that is more than two players, although it's also possible it can be a two-player game. But what you can't really have much in games about people are as a computer game that's single player, unless the computer opponents have personalities that the player can analyze. Thanks for listening.